Bad news for all freedom fighters around the world as the globalist idiots are here to cause more trouble again, as Joe Biden has come out to save the Iranian regime. God forbid somebody goes against the Iranian regime, the best friends of the Chinese Communist Party. Because everybody is so scared of the Chinese Communist Party in the West that they brought them inside the tent. That didn't go too well. Now they invite them to Davos, to everything else, and they shake hands with the Chinese tyrants and think, well, this is called global cooperation. This is absolutely disgusting what's going on. And not only people in Iran who want freedom and self determination and noble international intervention in their country, but us, because all this is affecting the British interests. So, the Iranian regime and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, which is basically the paramilitary in charge of the country, a lot of countries are now been forced to put sanctions on them, ban them, officially and fully ban them. Even the European Parliament did that. It's embarrassing that even the European Parliament decided to vote against them. The UK government, the British government that used to rule the waves, were under a lot of pressure recently and thought that, okay, let's also join and say we should go against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. But someone came and stopped them. Who is that someone? Well, yes, it's Joe Biden. So first things first, the MI5 Director General, Ken McCallum, said a couple of months ago in a rare speech, public speech in 2022, that he revealed that a number of attempts and attacks have been made in this country by the Iranian regime. So British residents, so they could be either British Iranians or just British, they've been targeted by the Islamic Republic, and the police tried its best to do something. I can't really get into too much details with this, guys, but I think you can tell what I can't say. But let's just say that it affected me and my life as well. But people like me, we're not going to stop fighting for freedom just because we're threatened by a bunch of nutters. But yes, we've been targeted, a lot of people in this country, and the police tried their best to protect us. That aside, because of this, there's been a lot of pressure. Even Rishi Sunak thought that, okay, let's join the calls to criticize and do something, or ban or put sanctions on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Joe Biden came and stopped the British government. Who is the American government to tell anybody in the world what to do in their own country with their own affairs? These warmongering, absolute control freaks in the Democratic Party, the US Democrats, it's always the US Democrats, by the way. These people think that they should continue to police the world. We do not want you to police the world anymore. But we also don't want the CCP to police the world. But this is a very, very lose-lose situation that we're having. The history of the US Democrats have been absolutely toxic on these issues. It was firstly Jimmy Carter as president who helped bring in the Ayatollahs in Iran. He betrayed his own ally, the Shah of Iran, and the people of Iran. So he basically backed the paramilitary coup of 1979, and then they did the media PR spin, said this is a revolution. Just because you call it a revolution doesn't mean it is. The documents were published. This was leaked, and even Julian Assange and WikiLeaks leaked more documents about the wrongdoings of the US Democrats globally. Firstly, we found out that the US had direct contacts with Ayatollah Khomeini when he was in exile in France. They were giving them trainings. They were helping them with media, PR stunts and everything else. And we found out that, so essentially CIA backed this coup because they thought, well, we can't really control the Shah anymore. He's not a puppet. He wants just to be an independent, equal partner. So I thought, well, let's try take a risk and go back these guys. Well, that completely backfired because the next day, Ayatollah Khomeini essentially suckered Jimmy Carter. The Iranian revolutionaries came back and the next day went on the street and said, death to America, death to America. So that didn't go too well for Jimmy Carter. They didn't learn from that lesson because then Barack Hussein Obama came back in 2009 and betrayed the Green movement, the freedom-fighting Iranians who wanted to go against the regime, the tyrannical regime. He thought, once again, as a US Democrat and as president, it's his job to police the world. So he basically helped the Iranian regime to stay in power. He betrayed pro-freedom people in Iran. And the same thing is now happening with Joe Biden. It's always the disgusting US Democrats. Now, these globalists, not only they don't care about people who want freedom, self-determination in their own countries, it's in their interest to force the UK government and the rest of the world to ignore what's going on in Iran. There's an uprising right now in Iran. There's an actual revolution happening, but it's not supported by the West because they would rather have a weak enemy in Iran in the name of the Islamic regime than an actual strong, independent, equal partner. They don't want competition in the region. And they know that an independent Iran could actually stand up on its feet and compete against Saudi and compete against the CCP and everybody else. And they don't want to lose the interest that they have in the friends that they have. Saudi Arabia, China, and all the others. Qatar. It's absolutely disgusting what's going on right now. So it's a lose-lose situation, but at least there's been some reaction. So Iran International is a TV channel that was based in the UK, in London. It's against the Iranian regime. So it's for the opposition. It's for the pro-freedom Iranians. It's there to broadcast what's going on in Iran, for people who want to be remain informed. Now, these guys have been under a lot of attacks in London. In our own country, the Islamic regime is sending their thugs and militants, especially via small boats, to come here as illegal, well, as refugees, but they're illegal migrants. But these are enemies. They're coming here, threatening them. So Iran International, as a TV station, they had to leave. They had to go to America to stay safe. Why? It makes absolutely no sense. Why are we bringing problems from different countries into our country? That's a whole different problem, by the way. It's none of our business. But Tom Tugendhat has been very spot on these issues. He's also very strong against the CCP. He said, "Let me be clear. Freedom of the press is at the heart of our freedoms. Tehran's efforts to silence Iran International are a direct attack on our freedoms and an attempt to undermine our sovereignty. They will fail." The problem is that the rest of the globalists, obviously, ideally, they would prefer if the Iranian regime stay in place. But even if when it goes, they're going to try their best to intervene in Iran again. But luckily, the Iranian opposition, they're very smart. They are very vocal, saying we do not want your foreign interventions in our country. When we become free and independent, we will do what we used to do as Persians. They're going to bring back the Persian constitution. They're going to have their own sovereignty. And it's not one of those countries like Libya or Syria that weren't used to democracy. They had it. They invented the first Charter of Human Rights back in the day. So it's not some sort of desert without any values or any sort of basic concept of freedom. So all you have to do is just leave them alone. Let them win the revolution. Support them vocally. And just talk about it. That's it. But no. They're just basically allowing their friends in Tehran to remain in place. And we'll see what happens. Justin Trudeau, until recently, he was letting the Iranian regime and to send their families to go to Canada to hide until we exposed it, and now he had to reverse that policy. They're all in the pocket of the tyrants. They're all as bad as each other. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section, because these people want to rewrite history, and this propaganda has been going on for years and decades. The Iranian regime and the West have been saying, well, so the Shah was a puppet, so we had to get rid of him. And, I mean, it wasn't us, it was a revolution. He was a bad person. This lie is being told so many times, people started to believe that guy was a tyrant. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.